Saraya/Paige and Alberto Del Rio's turbulent relationship has grounds to be the most toxic wrestling couple of all time. Yes, even more toxic than the likes of Edge and Lita, AJ Lee and Daniel Bryan, and Rusev and Lana. Who could ever forget that one? Those other relationships were toxic on screen, but with Paige and Alberto Del Rio's relationship, it wasn't toxic on screen but in real life. Their relationship was filled with fights, lies, domestic abuse, arrests, and all-round absolute f***ing carnage. It's actually quite surprising that they were clearly so bad for each other, but they lasted for over a year and were engaged before they ultimately called it quits. Thank God. And even though they've been broken up for over 6 years, to this day there is still toxicity between them as they make threats towards each other. But how did things get so bad? Paige and Alberto Del Rio were very successful in WWE in their own rights. Alberto has won championships all over the world, and in WWE, he was a multi-time world champion and had many memorable and notable feuds, like his feud with John Cena and more. Paige was a very important figure in the WWE women's division, and she was a multiple-time women's world champion, and she was one of the women's wrestlers who really helped to revolutionize women's wrestling in WWE and take it to the next level. These two were very popular and successful in WWE, and that's why it was such a surprise when they revealed that they were in a relationship in 2016. Paige had just gotten out of an engagement with musician Kevin Scarf, and Del Rio was in the middle of divorcing his wife in Mexico, who was divorcing him because of his infidelity. Both Paige and Del Rio were in rocky positions before they got together, but when they got together, sparks for sure flew, even though they were moving very quickly.
I'm in love.
Wasn't Paige just engaged? I didn't even know that she was not with her last boyfriend.
Their love was so intense so early into the relationship that Del Rio even got into a fight with a drunken man outside of a bar because he disrespected his girlfriend Paige. This guy actually had a knife on him, and Del Rio ended up walking away with multiple stab wounds and slashes in non-vital areas like his arms and on his head. He's lucky that he survived this because, quite honestly, he could have actually died if the drunken knifeman had the genuine intent to kill him. These two were so in love that after a few months of dating, Paige even got a tattoo dedicated to Alberto that said Papi across her finger, as well as another tattoo across her torso that said Alberto. On the surface, love was in the air and they were happier than ever, but it didn't take long for to hit the fan. In the words of Del Rio's former assistant Ricardo Rodriguez,
ultimately what I think it was two people that had very similar personalities coming together, and it would never have worked. And I remember I did talk about this a few times. Just, be careful, because you both are very similar. You're both stubborn, you're both hard-headed. And I can only imagine what's going to happen with arguments.
Paige and Del Rio were a toxic combination that was waiting to explode. The two were constantly fighting, even while they were on the road doing tours for WWE, so much so that WWE management saw how much they were fighting and they tried to split them apart by drafting them to different brands. This meant that they had different schedules and couldn't see each other as often. WWE's plan managed to work, as they split up for a while after they were drafted to different brands, but they couldn't stay away from each other for too long and they eventually got back together. Del Rio was eventually released from his WWE contract in 2016, and they continued to date even after this. Despite all the problems that they were facing, Paige proposed to Del Rio in the middle of a wrestling ring and he accepted, now meaning that they were engaged. This was great news and all, but it didn't mask the problems that they were having. Domestic abuse from both sides would consume their relationship, with Paige accusing Del Rio of domestic abuse. She said this: "You could be trapped in a room for 6 to 7 hours, getting your ass beat every couple of minutes, and he's doing all these crazy things to you. In the beginning, you're fighting back with this person, but in the end, it becomes a cycle. Eventually something is happening to you every day." Of course, Alberto denied all of these allegations, and he instead lobbied some pretty serious accusations of his own towards her regarding domestic abuse. He said this: "It was the other way around. I have the evidence, not just words. In the relationship between Paige and me, there was a person who was arrested 3 times, in San Antonio, Las Vegas, Orlando, for domestic violence. It was not me. There's a person who has 6-7 police reports for domestic violence in San Antonio." There were at least 3 arrests or incidents that were reported during their relationship. One of them was a 2016 incident in Las Vegas after WWE's Money in the Bank. Another incident was in San Antonio where Paige lived with Del Rio. But perhaps the most famous incident was their public dispute at the Orlando International Airport in 2017.
Stay out of my life! Leave me the fuck alone! You just have to watch me in your face, not the war! Then press charges! Don't fuck press charges! It gets me the fuck away from you!
The story that Paige told the world was that she got a phone call that her uncle's health was in a bad state, and Del Rio said something distasteful toward her regarding her uncle, causing her to throw her drink at him. This is what prompted Del Rio to get the police involved, and he pressed charges against Paige. This is the story that Del Rio and Paige told WWE and the fans to save face for Paige, but it wasn't actually what happened, as Del Rio has said that in fact she was much more violent than what he purported in this incident. She almost lost her job at WWE because of this incident, but Del Rio eventually ended up dropping the charges. Del Rio was already gone from WWE at this time, but Paige's WWE career was hanging by a thread. At this point, she was proving to be more of a liability than an asset to WWE, as she had violated WWE's wellness policy by testing positive for cocaine. Her sex tape was leaked on the internet, her neck was failing her, and now she was involved in a public domestic abuse case where she was the aggressor. Del Rio dissed WWE bosses like Triple H publicly. This did not bode well for Paige's standing in WWE. She was very close to losing her job, and she was feeling like taking her own life, and even developed anorexia and her hair started to fall out. Her relationship with Del Rio was extremely turbulent and toxic, and this caused her to slip further into depression. At this point, Paige's family were very concerned about her well-being, and were critical of her relationship with Del Rio. Paige's brother was quoted as saying, "I'm very worried about my sister. Please keep an eye on her. She's with a control freak who thinks he's a tough guy because he beats my sister and has money to cover up his tracks. I love my sister. She will end up like Whitney Houston or Amy Winehouse. Please share this. I want the world to know that I care about my little sister. Everyone keep an eye on her. You'll be angry at me, but I love you. I'm writing this on behalf of all the Knights." The relationship was really starting to crumble. Their disputes got so bad that they both even signed a $1 million confidentiality agreement where they agreed that they were not allowed to disclose the bad details and happenings in their relationship to the public. But there were certain problems with this agreement. Del Rio had this to say on the matter. "For the parties to protect them, we did it and signed a confidentiality agreement for $1 million. After signing it, I found that Paige didn't own a house. She didn't have a car. She didn't have more than $70,000 in the bank, and the only one who really had to lose something was me. Because, thank God, WWE, Impact, AAA, all those companies made me great and gave me to win. But that money belongs to my children. It is for them to become someone." This very contract between Paige and Del Rio was the reason why they lied constantly to the fans and WWE about all the bad things that happened during their relationship. Towards the end of 2017, Paige and Del Rio saw the writing on the wall and ended their relationship, finally. Del Rio continued to wrestle and continued with his businesses, and Paige continued to work in WWE even though she had to retire due to her neck issues. She eventually left WWE and joined WWE's biggest competitor, All Elite Wrestling, AEW. Despite them not being together, the toxicity was still present because ever since the two have broken up, they have lobbied some pretty serious accusations towards each other. It is not clear how their confidentiality agreement works or if it's still enforceable. There are still threats from both parties to expose each other for what they did previously. In 2022, Del Rio said this, "If you dare, you or your family dare to mess up with me again, I'll put all those videos. And no, I'm not talking about private or nasty videos. No, the videos of you being you, and all the police reports, and all that stuff that is out there. That is real, so just stay where you are. Please leave me alone. Enough is enough. And you, all of that people, you should be thankful it's because of me she still has a job. Because if I would have exposed her past, I'm not just talking, barking crap. I've got documents of what I'm saying. I have evidence, and if not, hey, come and sue me. But if you try to do something, I'll put those 3 arrests for domestic violence out there, and I will tell the truth of what happened, what really happened. Not the BS stories that we told the media to protect her from losing a job because we were engaged. We were a couple, we did it together. We threw a bullshit story to the media, to the fans, but that is not a real story. And I have no intentions of entertaining the internet, and I do not want to affect anyone's life, but please stop messing with me." As much as Del Rio has dirt on Paige, his reputation has very much plummeted since the end of their relationship. In May of 2020, Del Rio was arrested in Texas on 1 count of kidnapping and 4 counts of sexual assault on his new girlfriend. These are some pretty serious charges against him, and Paige's reaction to these charges was, "Karma's a real thing, and you put out what you receive," and right now, he's receiving it. Paige even went on to say that she sees Del Rio as Voldemort. That's how much contempt she has for him till this day. There's still clearly animosity between the two, and it looks like their grievances will forever be irreconcilable. It's such a shame because Alberto Del Rio and Paige could have built an empire together because of how talented and over they were, but instead of taking advantage of what they had and growing as a couple, they did the opposite. They dedicated themselves to doing things that were not productive, neither for their careers nor their lives, and that is how they became the most toxic wrestling couple of all time. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other videos. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. But anyway, goodbye.